When you've run out of answers, when every option is exhausted, and you're facing clear and immediate danger, you call them. They are the difference, the dividing line between civilization and chaos. You've seen them at work, lights flashing, sirens screaming. But what really happens behind the scenes is finally being told.
Attention all units. Stand by for special assignment. Responders, Mo Vassar and Don Roper. You are requested to report to the microphone. This is Firehouse Chronicles. Proceed when ready.
We used to run try the flame. Now we just let our coffee slow. You wink like you've got secrets only chaos used to know.
Never nervous.
And this is Firehouse Chronicles, the show about real firefighters, real stories, and real heroes. And today we've got a special guest that's going to tell you a story of danger and excitement and some valor. But before we get to that, I'll introduce myself as former fire captain, 33 years on the job, Maurice Vassar, and Don Roper is my co-host, a lieutenant for the fire department. 33 years, he's been in the belly of the beast. Say hi to the people.
Hello, everybody. I'm Lieutenant Roper, retired, actually 9 years, and we're going to have a special guest, and it's firefighter Pernell Harris. I've known him for a long time, worked with him for about 14, 15 years at Engine and Ladder 32. We were on the truck company, Ladder 32, for about 14 to 15 years, and he's going to introduce himself. He has a interesting story to tell. Pernell Harris.
Okay, how you guys doing?
We're pretty good, Pernell.
Real
I heard
good.
that story of danger and valor.
Okay, that sounds about right.
Yeah, start at your anytime you're ready, my brother.
Yeah, like my old lieutenant, Mr. Roper said, my name is Pernell Harris. Did about 28 years on the fire department. Last half of that was on the truck 32. Prior to that, all my experience for the most part was on an engine. I did my time on the engine. It was a great time, but after a few details to truck 32, I like truck work. I like the rescue component of it, what we had to do, and liked my new officer. Transferred down there and got a lot of experience and did a lot of good work. Was really proud to be there.
Well, there was a fire you had one day, you told me, that was kind of unusual because of its location. What can you tell me about that?
Yeah, we had a fire right off of Reading Road. I think it was about 10 years ago. Dad and I both been retired for about 9 years, so it was about a year or so before we retired. Came in the middle of the night, 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, something like that. We got the call, got up. It was 30 seconds around the house, around from the firehouse. As soon as we got out the door, we could see the flames. And ironically enough, that night, I was the officer in charge of the engine. I wasn't even on the truck. Don was in charge of the truck. I was in charge of the engine. I think we both called in heavy fire and a second alarm as soon as we saw it. There wasn't going to be no way around that because it was a large structure, I think like a 60-unit older apartment complex. And that time of night, full of people, women, kids, the whole 9 yards. So we immediately called for help. We got there, and luckily there was a hydrant right in front of the building. So we were able to go in the front suction. Don went around the back, did his thing, and me and firefighter Steve Sieving went in the front door. Luckily, the fire was seated right on the first floor. So when we got in, we masked up. He and I went in by ourselves because obviously when we got there in 30 seconds, nobody else was there to help us yet. Fortunately, like I said, it was on the first floor. We immediately identified the seat of the fire. We both went in, took our position, got on our hands and knees, and it's not like in the movies where you can see everything, other people, other firefighters, what you're doing. You can't see your hand in front of your face. All we saw was a giant orange glow, which we knew was the seat of the fire and needed to be put out. So like I said, we got in position, sat down, and started firing it up. And there was steam everywhere. It seemed like we were down there for an hour, and it was probably only 10 minutes. But the fire did not want to go out, and it just kept getting hotter and hotter and hotter. But we didn't move. You could hear screaming, the fire trucks outside, sirens, all the noise that you hear on a fire ground. But until we heard those emergency blows on the horns to get out, we weren't going to leave. So we both stood our ground and we sat there and just kept spraying as much water as we could all over the place. And slowly but surely, the fire started to dissipate. It started to go down slowly. The steam started to build. Me and my partner were baking while we were sitting there. We both identified the heat, and we were both asking, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And we were. Neither one of us wanted to leave, but we knew there was lives at stake. I knew Don and the truck was in the back of the building. I didn't know what they were doing, but I can only imagine they were saving as much people as they could. And we couldn't do anything but put out the fire, which that's the way you save the most people, is to get rid of the problem, which was the fire. So we were committed to stay there, and we wound up staying there in that room by ourselves. There was other companies in other rooms, but that was the seat of the fire. We wound up knocking it down and coming out after the fact. I can't tell you how long we were in there. But I do know that when we finally got finished, we must have been in a sunken living room or something at first, because water was building up. And it was superheated water from the fire. So when we tried to stand up, the water shot up the legs of our bunker pants and burned us both.
Good.
He even had burns around his face because it got through the small crease of his hood. So it wasn't a good feeling getting burned, but it was a great feeling once we got outside and realized that Ladder 32 was able to rescue, I think it was 16 people. They got out the building. Nobody got hurt. The only firefighters that had some injuries was me and my partner, which were minor burns, but no one got hurt, killed, injured, anything. Said multiple people were saved. We wound up going back and have a debriefing at the firehouse about it. We did everything we could. We saved all the lives we could. And we wound up getting accommodations for it. I did, being in charge of the engine. Don did, being in charge of the truck. So that was definitely one of my proudest days on the fire department my whole career, not because we got accommodations, but because of the volume of people we were able to save. I mean, when you can save almost 20 people at one time, that's doing your job. I appreciate it. That's what really stuck with me.
Right. Well, let me ask you, this was near the firehouse, right? I mean, how far away would you say?
2 blocks on Reading Road.
Yeah, 2 blocks right around the corner on Reading Road. Like I think it was the first street on your left. As soon as you go out the firehouse, you make one right, the next left, it's right there.
So what's the special challenge on a fire that close to the firehouse? What do you think?
No help for a while. I mean, like I said, Don and I both asked for the multi-alarm as soon as we got out the firehouse, because you could see it. But, you've got the 9s one way, the 19s one way, maybe the 23. So, and you don't know if they're out on other fires or medical runs. You don't know anything. All you know is you called for help, and you have to sit there and wait. And that's what we did. Like I said, nobody ever came in the room that me and Steve were in, because we were in there by ourselves. But people were all over the building. Like I said, it was a 60-unit, I think a 4-unit, 60 multi-unit apartment complex. So people were everywhere trying to help people, rescue people, ventilate, do whatever we could. But we knew we were going to be there for a while by ourselves, and that's what wound up happening for me and Steve. But everybody else was able to do their job because we did our job and put the fire out. It was just a little different for me because, being the last 14 years of my career on the truck, I had to switch from being in a truck or being in charge of the truck to being in charge of an engine company.
Right.
So I had to just direct myself to putting out the fire to save the lives versus trying to do search and rescue or something like that. And it was an easy decision. And fortunately, it was right around the corner from the firehouse. So it wasn't any time to think. You just had to react on your training. And the training said, hook up, put out the fire. And that's what happened.
Yeah, I was just going to make a comment. It you pull up on the scene, it was heavy fire and smoke coming out of in the back. It seemed like it's the second floor because it was up the fire escape, and we put the ladder up to ventilate and rescue people out of the back, bust out windows, let the smoke out. But it was heavy black smoke, and that's one of the things you do on your size up. Multi-dwelling, 2 o'clock at night, heavy occupancy, heavy black smoke and fire. People were asleep. That makes a big difference, the time that it was. And people were obviously screaming and panicking and running out of the building. Some people couldn't get out. The fire was blowing out of the back windows. We were on the C side of the building. If you're in the front, we call that the A side. Then if you go around the building on the left-hand side is the B, and then we were in the back. That was the C side. And the D side, it was further down because it was a long apartment, multi-dwelling complex. And so, we rescued plenty of people. We didn't rescue all 16 people for sure. Right. But we had a part in rescuing the ones that was definitely exposed to the fire and smoke initially. Other people got out of the building on their own. But the ones that we had, they were trapped inside on this fire escape in the building, and we had a chance to rescue them. And like Pernell said, the best thing to do, first of all, is ventilate, extinguish the fire, put the wet stuff on the red stuff. That'll save lives. And then ventilate it. It opens up so the people can see where the fire is at, so they can extinguish it. So that was really interesting. And at that time in the morning, you have no recourse. You just have to go to work. And obviously in Cincinnati, people, they come right away. You don't have to worry about them coming to the fire. They come right away. So we had plenty of help. But initially, you're there for like 5 or 6 minutes by yourself, maybe 7 or 8. You think it's forever and that you don't have help. But it is, and it's
a lot that can go wrong. I mean, you
absolutely.
guys, it all fell into place because of the training and your desire to do it. But just think, if you get the wrong hydrant, or if your hydrants aren't checked and the hydrants.
Oh yeah, if the hydrant in front of the building had been broke, we'd have been
frozen.
Had to run all the way up the street to get. I mean, it'd have been a mess.
It'd been a nightmare, and somebody could have died. Like you said, your hydrant's frozen because you didn't check them.
And sometimes you have to relay water as well. The other income company, the engineer who's on the engine has to relay water, has to relay information. We need relay 5-inch hose to engine 32 or whatever company there is, and they relay water. They bring water to you and hook up to your pumper and pump water. But that wasn't the case with this situation. And afterwards, when you sit back and think about what took place, sometimes it's just a miracle, and you're in the right place at the right time, and nobody died. No one was injured, and nobody died.
And you guys are rolling. You're rolling on instinct, on reaction, on reflex. Like Pernell said, you don't really have a lot of time to be thinking about. That's why you do so much training. This stuff's got to happen, because you said you went into the fire, you and Steve, and you guys were in there by yourselves basically for quite a while. But what if you were afraid to go in that fire? What if you didn't want to go in the building? And those situations have happened where a person won't make a declaration that, hey, I ain't going in the building, but they'll be reluctant. They'll find something else to do. I've heard stories from other fire departments of people claim that equipment broke that really didn't break because they didn't want to go in that fire. So, it's a lot more to it that some of us take for granted. There's a lot that can go wrong.
And one of the determining factors that can have an impact on whether you're successful in firefighting, putting the fire out, ventilating, is your experience. Like I said, I was over there for 18 years. Pernell was over there for 14 years, but I had been on truck 4 for 6 years. And so majority of the time I did truck work, and I also been on the engine for 4, 5, 6 years. So it gives you experience. And once you make runs on a regular basis, and engine in ladder 32 is centrally located, so we made fires everywhere. And so that makes, the more you do, the more you get used to. Initially, you're just like everybody else. You're confident. You're a little bit not fearful, but you respect the fire. You're not afraid, but you respect it. You have a godly fear of the fire. And so with that in mind, you know what can happen, but also your training and your experience kicks in. You've seen it before. You've been there before. You know exactly what you need to do. That helps, and the training makes a big difference.
And what about this? This is, I guess, a secondary thing, but I remember one of the big fears we had, we don't want to mess up. We got a lot of pride in our work. So we got other engine companies coming, and we want to make sure we perform, the right way, adequately. Because there's a lot of pride in being a firefighter. If your stuff ain't right, engine ain't placed right, y'all ain't got no water, it's humiliating and embarrassing. And guys take that stuff, and getting in first too. If you're supposed to be first in, and somebody beats you to the place you should be first at, there's some humiliation involved with that. I mean, that matters. And it really drives firefighters, I guess, actually to be excellent. But that's a factor that comes into play.
But in that regard, I don't care what fire you go to. I don't care how experienced you are. There's always mistakes at every single fire. At every single fire. It could be the littlest things, like dropping your glove, or not having a second pair, or not, putting your gear on properly. It's always mistakes at every single fire. And that's how you really learn.
The best thing is if you make those mistakes, you try to learn from them and not make them again. And most times, even if nobody sees your mistakes, you don't forget it. Especially if it's something like, if you drop your gloves or lose your gloves and you don't have a spare, your job is over. You got to come back out and be like, okay, I can't even go back in. So that's usually a mistake you make once.
Yeah.
And then other things are just like experience. And I can attest to this. The first fire we made together when I got on the truck, I think it was on Lincoln Avenue in Water Hills. We went to a building that Don was familiar with from inspections and everything. Fire was raging again when we got there. The engine company went to the front of the building. We went to the back of the building. We found the fire immediately. So Don and I called it in. Well, Don called it in and told them where the fire was. They came back there with the hose. We went in there. Everything went fine except I didn't take a ceiling hook with me. I figured if we had to get through a door or something, I took an axe with me. I didn't need a ceiling hook. So
explain what a ceiling hook is to those who may have no idea what that means.
Yeah, I told Don, before I got in the fire department, I was a personal trainer, so I've always been in shape. Like I said, I've never been the biggest guy in the world, but I was always pretty strong for my size, and I could handle my business. So I figured I don't need a ceiling hook. It was just a 6 foot, fiberglass hook, D-ring with a nice hook on the end, so you can stick it up, pull up drywall or knock out walls or whatever. But it's called a ceiling hook because you pull ceiling with it because it's overhead and it's lightweight because it's fiberglass. I didn't think I needed that. I had an axe in my hand. That's all I needed. I could get through doors. I could get through walls, self-rescue, whatever, ventilate. And I did. I ventilated walls, knocked down doors, and I ventilated the ceiling with it. And needless to say, by the end of the fire, I could not lift my arms above my head. Don laughed about it, and nobody had to say anything. That was a mistake, I guess, I made in training or overestimating how heavy that axe got towards the end of a fire. But I made that mistake once and didn't make it again. So he didn't even have to say nothing. He just laughed at me, So I was like, yeah, that won't be making that mistake again. And then I think shortly thereafter, we had it was like a 5 or 6 alarm fire. We did mutual aid way down on Reading Road at like the Gateway Motel, I think it was. There were so many firefighters there. Yeah, there were so many firefighters there. It was ridiculous. And we were up on the roof. And I think by the end of the fire, our chainsaw motor had burned. I mean, everybody was going. I mean, they were called trench cuts, which I learned that night. It wasn't just cutting a hole. I mean, we went from one side of the hotel on the roof all the way up and then all the way down the other side. And there was firefighters like ants all over the roof, all over the inside. And it was an all-night venture. And I learned more about ventilation and using that saw that one night in practical training than all the other times I'd use one. So sometimes you learn things, and it always helps to be with a good company, have a good officer to properly learn. Because once you have a night like that, you learn one time, everything else just comes secondary. So experience plays a lot, and you got to have a desire and to will to want to do the job, not back down. You got to be smart. You got to be cautious, especially when you're in charge and you got other lives, in your hands, which being in charge a few times, I've had to make command decisions to do things to save lives and to also save my firefighters' lives too. Because I wanted everybody to go home, whether I was in charge or not. I didn't want to lose anybody, which, we've all lost people while we were on the department, but thank God I didn't have to lose anybody I was actually with. I mean, I've been on the scene of incidents that were right after things of that nature, but didn't want to see it in hand. So that was something when you are in charge, especially when you being a captain, him being a lieutenant, you got to think about your men and yourself and the people you're trying to rescue at the same time. So you got to want to do the job. You just can't skate. You got to want to do it. And we all make mistakes. None of us are perfect. Lord knows that's the truth. But if you got the right heart and the desire to do the job, that's all you can do is your best.
Definitely.
It tipped off a point you mentioned about people. You have people's lives at stake, not only the people that you're trying to rescue, but your fellow firefighters. One of the things that I've gathered over the years, gleaned over the years about new recruits, sometimes I had a new driver that day. Mapes was the driver. He never been in a fire like that before. And the placement of the aerial truck, and then how to ventilate. You talking about trench rescue? That was a carousel in. That was a major fire, major undertaking, trying to cut a trench from one end to the old carousel to the next. And Gulf Manor was where the fire was located. Gulf Manor in Reading, Ohio. We were there on mutual aid, but we had the best spot in the area because we came in, opened up the gate, went right in the back, put the arrow up right on top. We went through our chainsaw, a new chain, everybody else, the steel saw. Everybody else who had a saw, we went through every single saw doing a trench cut in that place. But it worked in this fire. But
show them all up.
I said that to say this is a new firefighter. When they come in, they're new rambunctious. They want to get off the fire truck and run, into the building. They could go by themselves. Well, all the new guys that I had the privilege to instruct and to show and to set an example for, I always make them make sure you put on all your fire gear, your helmet, your gloves, your hood, everything, your mask, put it on right. And then what I tell them, this is what I tell them to settle them down. I want you to go take a look around to the A and the B, well, A, B, and the D side of the building, all three corners, not in the back. Put your gear on, go to the back, come back and report to me what you got. And you'd be surprised how that calms them down. And then my objective is not, I always tell them, I'm not overly concerned about you first trying to save your life. You're there to pull me out of the building. And so when they get that, if I put the onus on them, my life depends on you. And when you do that, it calms them down and it teaches them a lesson that they can't just go run off and leave. How many of you will have people just, especially kids, or even the older guys, they just run off and leave. You have no clue where they're at.
Go, so, I saw this, and they just grab and gone, and you're like, where the heck is so-and-so, and you don't even know.
Right, just freelancers just running crazy.
Absolutely.
Right. Good way to calm them down, because that's a problem at fires, and not just with new people. You'll get guys that, they get excited, and they're just running crazy.
Yeah.
Not effective.
Absolutely. So,
well, that was a good story about our long ago fire. What lessons do we learn? I guess the lesson was save lives. What? Slow down, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Trust your training.
Gotta
do that.
The old saying, and there's plenty of sayings, but the old saying is, if you got time to do it over, you have time to do it right the first time.
Boom.
So take your time, think about what you're doing, and then practice what you learn. And
because once we got in there and sat down, what no coming back out and saying let's start over. Once we got in there and got in position, what no getting up.
Yeah. Man, y'all got me all hyped up. I feel like putting on my bunker pants.
Yeah, it's been a while since you were on 40 hours. It's been a while since you put on some gear.
Probably still fit though.
Yeah, definitely, without a doubt. We're gonna wrap this up, brothers.
Already.
Remember to like and subscribe. And if you have a fire story and you're watching this podcast, please hit us up in the comments. Hit me with an email. We'd like to put your fire story on the Firehouse Chronicles and let the world know what it's like to be in the belly of the beast. Hey, thanks, Don. Thanks, Pernell.
Thanks, Cap D. Thanks,
right.
Pernell. See you guys next time.
All right. Thank you, guys. Talk to you soon.
All right.